Good morning. It's good to be back. I hope you are doing well and we get a chance to have a conversation again. So as you come on, let me know. Say hello. Let me know. I've got some questions that are in the can for us. Say hello. Let me know that where you're coming from. I took a week off last week. We didn't do money mentoring over coffee last week. Primarily because my wife and I were traveling in Portugal. We took some time off and went to Portugal. What a beautiful country, beautiful people, beautiful food, and the prices are crazy good. It was incredible. So I'm back, and I hope that you all get a chance to find specific breaks in your days, in your months, in your years. And my wife and I, we actually block time about every 90 days. And we don't always take a vacation to Europe, but we'll usually do that at least once or twice a year. But sometimes it's just blocking time off so we can reconnect. So we stay home, we live by the beach, and we, us and Budo, and that's it. So this was our time. And so hopefully you all get a chance to do that. But I want to talk about money mentoring. Here we're going to answer some questions, money questions, wealth questions, business questions, anything that you have. If you've got questions, do me a favor, pop them in the chat. Let me know. I've got some questions that came in on the hotline that I'm going to answer. For those of you that don't know, we have a hotline that says ask. You go to askmelnow.com. If you have questions, if you have comments, or if you have something, you can actually record a voice message to me, and we get it transcribed, and I bring it on here. So this session, this weekly session that I do, is just a live dialogue with you all, with the community, with having the conversation to see what can we do, how can I help you move yourself forward. This isn't about media spin. This isn't about hype or hyperbole. This is going to be me direct with you. I got no bias. I'm not selling you investments. I'm not selling you insurance. I'm not selling you anything. I am selling you on you. I'm selling you on your dreams. I truly believe that financial freedom is a birthright, and we just got to go out and claim it. And so that's how I look at it. That's the way we look at it. And that's why I do this. I think that sometimes people are challenged trying to find their path to financial freedom. They haven't been able to figure it out. And so what I want to make sure we do is simplify it. It isn't actually complicated, although the financial services industry would love to have us believe it's complicated because it serves them. But it's simple. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that isn't going to be work involved. It doesn't mean that there isn't going to be discipline involved. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to do some things differently. But it does mean that you can do it. It's within reach. Whether you're in debt, whether you're out of debt, it's within reach. And that's the thing that I think that we need to start to look at and touch on. So that's why we do the show. That's why I do the show. It's what I believe that I am called to do in this new season of my life as we move through it. And that's it. That's the deal. So there's some questions that have come in. I can even bring you on. If you've got questions or something that you want to chat about, you can request to come on live, and we can have a conversation. This is my time with you doing things that make a difference in your life. So with that, let me jump to the first question that came in on the hotline. So this one's an interesting one. And I think that we all need to kind of think about it. So here's the thing. They said, is now a good time to convert my IRA to a Roth IRA? So for those of you that don't know, there's two types of retirement accounts. One that is a tax deferred account. In other words, you get a tax deduction when you put the money into the account. That's a traditional IRA account or a traditional 401k account. You take the tax deduction when it goes in, you save taxes today. When you get money out, you pay taxes on it when it comes out. And the expectation is that your tax rate when you take the money out of the retirement account is going to be lower than when you would have put it in, so the tax deduction becomes more valuable. And so one of the things to consider is just that. And you can put money into a traditional account, and then you can convert it to this Roth account. Now, the Roth account, unlike the traditional account, when money goes in, you don't get a tax deduction for it. But when it comes out down the road, all the gains, all the growth, all of that is not taxable. So there's a huge benefit to it if you qualify to make it happen. But let's say that you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in a regular IRA account or a regular retirement account. What happens? Could you convert it to a Roth and pay the tax now and not pay tax down the road? And the answer is yes. But it's not for everyone, because think about it. If you have $500,000 in an IRA account, you convert that to a Roth account, you're going to pay tax on $500,000. You're going to get hit with a big tax bill. So you want to do the analysis on this. But there are certain situations or considerations for converting from an IRA to a Roth account as you look at it. And the first is, maybe this year is a year where you have a lower income. And if you have a lower income and you're in a lower tax bracket, this might be the year to go ahead and do the conversion. Now, the person that asked the question didn't give me enough information to give them the specifics. So I'm going to give you more general stuff. So if you happen to have a year where you have lower income, you're in a lower tax bracket, this might be the year to make the conversion from a regular retirement account, a 401k or an IRA account, to a Roth account. Okay? Pay the tax at the lower rate, then let it grow from here on out going forward. Now, there's another reason you might look at doing it, is that, look, the market's dropped. Okay? We're down this year. So the value of your account has decreased. And so you would be converting the account at a lower value and paying tax at a lower value, and then it's going to grow from there. So that might be another reason to do it. And I don't know what your account looks like. Two, and this goes along with three, this goes along with number one, is this idea that maybe this happens to be a year that you have higher deductions. Your itemized deductions are higher. You made some big contributions. You got a house and you got mortgage. So bottom line is you're paying tax at a lower rate. If you're paying tax at a lower rate, it might be a year you consider doing the conversion. Okay. Now, why do we do this? There's three reasons, or there's two big reasons we do it, beyond this idea of not paying tax when we take the money out down the road. Because $1 million in a Roth versus $1 million in a regular IRA account are not the same. The $1 million in a regular IRA account, you're going to pay tax on when you take it out. The $1 million in a Roth account, you don't pay any tax on it. Okay? So one of the reasons to do it is to get what we call tax diversification. In other words, I will have my regular brokerage account, and I don't get a deduction when I put that in there. From that regular brokerage account, I will pay the tax on the gains and the distributions and all that stuff. I can have my tax deferred account. That's my IRAs, my 401ks. I'm going to get a tax deduction when I go into it, but I'm going to have to pay tax on it when I take it out. Then I have the Roth account. I'm not taking a tax deduction when I go into it, and when I take it out, I don't pay tax on that. So you have this play of three different tax scenarios, and when you're trying to manage your retirement or your taxes in the future, it's helpful to have that tax diversification. So that's one of the reasons to do it. The other reason to do it is that maybe you want to have someone inherit the IRA account. Now, I have an IRA account. It's a substantial IRA account. When it goes to my heirs, my wife and everything, they will have to pay tax on it. And so you're passing on the asset, but you're passing on a tax bill too. One of the reasons to do a Roth is then it passes on tax-free to your heirs, and so there isn't a tax associated with it. And then the third reason, a benefit of doing a Roth, is that you don't have something called RMDs, required minimum distributions. the Internal Revenue Code has a situation where they don't allow you to leave the money into your retirement account for forever. And so they have this thing for retirement accounts where you have to take distributions. They're called required minimum distributions. And they have to start taking money out of the retirement account starting at age 72 now. The new law is age 72. So if you have money in an IRA account and you turn at 72, they're going to force you to take money out, which means they're going to force you to pay tax on it. With a Roth, you don't have RMDs. You don't have that problem. So those are the reasons you'll do it. Tax-free to heirs, tax diversification, no RMDs. Now there is a caveat here. When you convert to a Roth, the money has to stay in there for 5 years minimum. Otherwise, you're going to pay a penalty for taking it out. So we're not going to convert anything in a Roth that we might need within 5 years. Okay? So hopefully that helps. Is it a good time? It may be, but I want you to look at the factors. You got to do some calculations. Do I have higher deductions? Do I have lower income? Do I have a lower value in the plan, because of the drop in the market or the investments? Look at those. It may be a good time to do that for you, but it may not. If you think that income's going up in the future or income's going down in the future, you want to look at it through those eyes to make that happen. So it was a great question. I get that a lot. Should I be converting my IRA to a Roth? So hopefully that helps. If you've got questions, let me know. Pop them in the chat. If you want to come on live with me, let's have a chat. I'll bring you on live and we'll have a conversation. Let's answer your questions, finance questions, business questions, wealth questions. Heck, I'll even give you life advice. I don't know if you want to take life advice from me, but what the heck. Last week, just passed my 61st birthday. Look out, world. And some good news. On my birthday, instead of getting cake and ice cream, I went in for my scope and scan. So I got needles and tubes instead of cake and ice cream, but I got an all clear. So I am 2.5 years past the cancer. It is behind me and we're doing well. And so, yeah, I got back from Portugal on Thursday. Friday, I went in. So it was fun, but this was really good. But I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be doing this. I'm glad to be able to have the chance to serve you. Now, some of you that may not know this, next week, starting on September 15th, I am doing a special deep dive live training. I'm actually doing a series of trainings where we're going to walk through the process of building wealth. We're going to walk through the keys to do it. We're going to talk about the way that my son and his wife, he's 32, she's 30, they were able to build a multi-million-dollar net worth and own 3 homes. The reason we went to Portugal is because they took a month off and they were living in Portugal for a month. So we decided to crash the party. And so it's the same process. And I want to walk you through it because I think that we're going through some uncertain times, whether it's inflation, whether it's recession, whether it's a bear market, whatever it is. But here's the thing that I know. Their recession doesn't have to be your recession. Their economy doesn't have to be your economy. Their bear market doesn't have to be your bear market. We just need to understand the principles. We need to understand the priorities. We need to understand the processes to navigate it differently. And that's why I'm doing the training. It's totally free. Go to affluencelive.com, grab a spot. We got over 1,300 people already registered. So jump in, join me, and let's go deeper. Let me give you some tools, some tactics, some processes. We'll calculate your target wealth number. We'll walk through some math. We'll do some of the things. I'm going to give you framework after framework on how to do this. So join me starting next week, next Thursday, September 15th. We'll rock and roll with that. All right. I'm going to go to the next question. If you have questions, do me a favor. Let me know. The next question, let's talk about this one. Because this is near and dear to my heart, although I'm not retiring. So it says, I am retiring next year, and with the market down, I'm nervous. What should I do? Okay, this is an interesting question. So, like I said, I just had my 61st birthday. So if I was a traditional dude, but I'm not a traditional dude, I'd be sitting back and saying, I got 4 years and then I retire. I mean, I never thought, it's crazy. Next year I qualify for Social Security. Are you kidding me? My wife doesn't think I act a day over 12, so that's okay. But there are those out there that are staring at retirement. There are those out there that just got into retirement and the market's being volatile and the market's dropping and they're sitting back saying, and this happened to my dad. My dad retired, and when he retired in the 80s, the market dropped right after that. So his retirement account, what he thought he had to live on for the rest of his life, got shrunk because the market declined. And it's a scary place because all of a sudden, you're not earning any additional income. You're on a fixed income and everything. And they're fine. They were fine and everything. And mom is fine. Dad passed away 11 years ago, but we're fine. So, but there's something that we need to understand here. It's something called sequence of return risk. What does that mean? If we look at a time frame, let's just take 10 years. And if the first couple of years of the 10 years, the market is up, and then the last part of the 10 years, it's down. The rate of return, if you calculate it, may look the same because the percentages are the same if you flipped it, where at the beginning you have losses and at the end you have gains. So let's look at it this way. Let's assume that someone retired in 2006-07 before the Great Recession. Well, they got slammed in the Great Recession, and then it grew like crazy after that. Well, what would happen with that person compared to someone that retired in 2010 as the bull market started? So they retired right when the market was going up. And what you're going to see is that the sequence of returns, because they had the losses earlier, the one that retired in 2006 or 7, just before the Great Recession, won't have as much cash, won't have as much value in their retirement. So the sequence of returns is important. So if we're in a down market this year and maybe next year or whatever, if we're going through an uncertain time in these next couple of years, and these become the first years of your retirement, it can impact you down the road. So we can't change the market. The market's going to do what the market's going to do. So what do we need to do? Well, the first thing is this. You got to have a plan. One of the things that we do in the Affluence Blueprint is we spend the time to say, let's create your Affluence Vision Plan. You know, how do we know what your life is going to look like? Well, we freaking plan it out. We understand what we have in place and what we need in place. In fact, when we do the training starting next week, we're going to calculate some of those numbers so you know what do you need to have in place to live the life that you want to live. And now you have a place to then plan for to make that happen. Then you need to stress test the plan. Okay, this is one of the things that I do with my wealth team is they stress test the plan. What happens if the market drops 30%? What happens if it drops 50%? What happens if it goes up 10%? What does it do to the plan? What happens if my income gets cut by 20%? What happens if my income goes up by 20%? What happens if I decide that I don't want to work anymore? Okay? Then all those things we factor in and we stress test the plan to say, we're good. And what we want to see is that the probability of success of the plan is going to make sense. So if you're retiring next year, the first things first, let's make sure you got a plan in place. Now, I don't know if you're working with an advisor or not, but let's make sure you have a plan in place. Second, let's make sure that they stress test the plan for all the scenarios that could happen. 3, I want you to review your expenses. I want you to start to look at what you're spending on a monthly basis. Are they wants? Are they needs? Are you going to need them in retirement? We need to get clear and we need to refine those expenses in a time where things are going to get tight. Okay? Then I want you to look at your liquidity. Here's the thing. The market's going to go up and down. And you won't be hurt by the market going up and down unless you're trying to take money out of the account. So if I have money in a high yield cash account that's going to sustain me for a period of time while the market does all its gyrations, okay? It's like that scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark. The guy has got the swords and he's doing all these gyrations with a sword, and Harrison Ford pulls out the gun and shoots the guy and says, don't bring a sword to a gunfight. It's the same thing. Let the market do what it's going to do, but I got to have liquidity, cash outside of it to sustain me while the market's going through its gyrations. And then when it settles down, then we can start taking distributions. So your liquidity to carry you through the uncertain times becomes important. So plan, stress this, test the plan, check your expenses, build the liquidity so you can work off of that and leave the account alone while it's going through the gyrations. The bottom line is this: you have to manage your margin. You have to manage your income, your outgo, the assets, and the cash flow. Okay? Income, outgo, assets, and cash flow. You're not going to be able to determine what the market's going to do, but you can determine how you set yourself up in the market. And you're probably going to need an advisor to help you go through those kinds of scenarios to give you a little more comfort. Okay? I hope that helps. Congratulations on the retirement, and enjoy it. Enjoy it. I've got a couple more questions I want to field here. What is the best way to get my spouse on the same page? Or do we actually need to be on the same page? So here's the deal. The answer to the second question is yes. The two of you need to be on the same page. You don't need to be on the same line on the page. You don't need to be on the same word or letter on the page, but you need to be on the same page. Because if you have one spouse that is a spender, and you have one other spouse that is a saver, there's going to be tension. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be problems here. I watched someone was jumping into our Facebook group, the Affluent Entrepreneur group, the private face group we have. If you're not there, you want to go and join it. And there's some questions coming in. And one of the questions is, what's a problem that you might need help with? And the response was, help me get my spouse to stop spending more than we bring in. That's a problem. That's two people not on the same page. And so here's the mistake, or here's the challenge. When we start to have a conversation with a spouse that feels admonishing and accusatory and judgmental, we're not going to get the results we want. Okay, so if you're saying you're doing this and you need to stop doing this, I mean that's lecturing. But what we need to be as a couple is sharing. Okay, what we need to be is sharing the things that are important, and what's important is the vision for your life. And if we get an agreement on the vision for your life, the things that you want to have and live and experience together and do it together, then we can start to move it to, okay, so how do we make that happen? But the conversation needs to be a higher level first on the vision that you want, the things that you want to create, the things that you want to experience, the love that you want to have. My wife and I, we love to travel. It's one of the greatest joys for us to be walking into another culture, in another country, in another state together. And so we know that we got to live our life a certain way to be able to do that. And when we get buy-in on the bigger vision, it's easier to get buy-in in the tactical things that need to happen. But one of the things to consider is, if we're not on the same page on the vision, that's the first place to start. Then we can get to the tactical things. All right. I don't call it a budget. I call it a cash resource plan for a reason. But now you sit back and say, well, how can we make that happen? How can we both contribute? How can we both contribute to creating this kind of situation so we can live the life that we want? Okay. And I think that's the thing that we need to look at first, is too often we're trying to give rules to our spouse and say, you will not spend this, you will stop that, and we need to do this, and we need to do that. That doesn't feel good. And you ain't going to get anywhere with that. But when you both are excited about a life vision for yourselves, then you can start to say, all right, so how do we make that happen? And you co-create the plan. We do an affluence vision at the very start of the affluence blueprint with the members that go through it, or any of my clients that I work with one-on-one. We go through that vision, and now we have a vision, and I want the spouses involved in that vision, because it's not their single vision. They are in a marriage. They are in a committed relationship. It is a paired vision. I had my single vision. Then I got married. My wife had her single vision. Then I derailed it because we got married. She was in a corporate path to take her to Germany, and I said, no, you're staying in California. So the point being is that the conversations around money are not about money. They're about life. They're about life's visions. They're about sharing. They're about experiencing. We say one of the critical outcomes of the affluence blueprint is, and an affluent entrepreneur, is to live a richer lifestyle. That's the first critical outcome. And a richer lifestyle isn't about the money. It's about how we experience life. And it's in the experiencing of life that we find richness, because wealth is a statistic. It's a number. It doesn't really matter. It's commas, it's zeros, it's decimal points. It doesn't matter if we're not experiencing life. We need to experience life. And then we can fund it with wealth. But if we're funding a life we don't like or we dread, there's no richness there. There's no life there. So if we're trying to get our spouse on the same page, the first thing is to make sure that we have a common vision, that we have that common bond, that we have that common journey that we're on together. I have a client that came through. Actually, she just was listening to the podcast, and she literally sent me a note saying, I just want you to know the impact you had. Because one of the key things I tell people to do is to first have the conversation with their spouse or their significant other, because it isn't a solitary pursuit. And she went and had the conversation with her spouse, and she said, for 20 years, we've been together for more than 20 years. And for 20 years, we cheered each other on from the sidelines. We've decided to break down the silos. We've decided to cheer each other on from the field, to be our cheerleaders for each other differently than we have done in the past. And she said, having the money conversations brought us closer together, didn't tear us apart. In fact, it brought us so close together that we actually booked a second honeymoon. All right? After 20 plus years. So we can look at the money conversation as something that divides us or joins us. And I think that it should be something that joins us in life, joins us in a journey, joins us in the richness, joins us in the experience. When you do that, you get the richer lifestyle. So I hope that answered that question. I kind of went off on it because I'm so passionate about it, because I truly believe that too often in relationships, we're isolating the money conversation to one person or the other. Now, Stephanie isn't as involved with the numbers and the money as I am, for a lot of reasons. But she's part of it. She knows where everything is. She knows what everything is, and we have a common vision. We have a common vision that we're working towards. We have a plan. We have that, and we live it daily. It brings us together. It doesn't divide us. Okay? So, all right, let me go back to the question. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Imhari, saving as a part of your salary, is there a formula for saving? So here's the thing. We walk through something called the wealth priority ladder in the Affluence Blueprint. But in a nutshell, one of the things that I want people to start saving 20, now it depends on your situation. Younger you can probably get away with just saving 20% of your salary. I want 20%. Now, we say in the range of 20 to 30%. Now, you might look at me and go, I'm barely paying my bills. There's no way in hell I'm getting 20%. I get it, but that's the goal. So we're going to start somewhere. Remember, wealth creation is less about the money and more about the behaviors. So too often people will tell me, well, when I make more money, then I'll do it. Or when I have more money, then I'll do it. I got news for you. If you're not doing it when you can only put away $5, you won't do it when you can put away 500 or 5,000. It is a behavior. It is a habit. And that habit needs to be developed. Just like going to the gym. You do not walk into the gym for the very first time. You've never been to the gym. You get on a bench, you slap some 45-pound plates on that bar, and you drop it on your chest. The only thing that's going to happen, you're not getting stronger, you're getting hurt. It's the same thing with wealth. It's the same thing with money. If all you can put away is $2, you start the habit. You go to the little chrome weights and you start with that. Because we're developing the muscle, we're developing the skill, we're developing the habits. And so it is a behavior that we need to start with. But that behavior will build. Colin Boyd is a dear friend and a client, and he sent me a text after we had this conversation, and he sent me a text saying, literally within 6 months' time, he was able to put away well in the multiple 5 figures, almost 6 figures, and his last line is the one that I love the most, where he said, "I'm loving the investing lifestyle." It is contagious. When we start, we just gotta start. Too often we sit back and say, "I'm too late." Well, the best time to start investing, the best time to build wealth was yesterday. The next best time is now. Now. Time is your greatest wealth creation lever. So it doesn't matter to me whether it's $5, $50 a week will turn into $350,000 in time over 30 years. Okay? $50. Okay? So point being is that it doesn't take a lot to make a lot. It doesn't take a lot. But if we don't have the behaviors, we can't make the things happen. We need to create the behaviors. So back to the formula. The formula is 20 to 30% of your income I want to go to savings. That's it. We will, in the training that's starting next week, we're actually going to do a calculation of what your target is. What's the number you need to get at that's going to fund your lifestyle? Because then we know what your target is. Now we know we can create the plan to make that happen. Okay? So that's hopefully that answers that question. I love this. If anyone wants to come on and have a conversation, then let me know. Is it Sin Lloyd? Sin Lloyd? I'm guessing it's short for Cindy or Cynthia or something. Can you recommend a good financial planning company that you trust? So my wealth team will only accept certain things above a certain threshold. Obviously, I trust them, otherwise it wouldn't be my team. However, I can't necessarily make some recommendations. Listen, my daughter-in-law is a wealth planner, and I love her, and she's freaking awesome at what she does. And the only reason she's not doing our stuff is I'm not mixing family with money. Okay? But by and large, I think what's more important is understanding the characteristics you're looking for in a financial firm or a financial planner. There are 4 things, and in the Affluence Blueprint, we kind of walk through, give you a list of questions to ask advisors. And I just recently dropped a couple things on episodes on my show about the advisors and things like that. So go back and look at that too. But here's in a nutshell. The first thing, one of the most important things is that they understand and buy into your vision. Their job isn't to judge the vision. Their job isn't to say, "Oh, that's too big." Their job isn't to sit back and ridicule it. Their job isn't to sit back and say, well, that's not their vision. That's not what the typical vision is. It's your vision. It's your life. It is your vision. Their job is to buy into it and help plan to make it a reality. If they can't get past that, walk away. Now, let's say they buy into the vision. Then there's a couple things that I want them to have. One, they need to have the heart of an educator. They're not there to make decisions for you. They're there to be an advisor so you can make the decision. They need to be an educator. That means that, because we say one of the rules that we teach in our investing, in my investing rules, is that you don't invest in something you don't understand. Well, so their job is to make sure you understand it. And if that takes a minute, an hour, or a day, they need to be willing to invest the time. If they don't have the heart of an educator, walk away, because they're transactional and not relational. I want relational. I want someone that's invested in the outcomes, my vision, to make that happen. I will literally, if I want to have a conversation with someone on my team, I text, I call, they pick up the phone unless they're in a meeting. That's the way it needs to be. They need to be proactive. So heart of an educator, and then the third characteristic is they need to have a soul of a servant. And they're serving you, not in a lower class perspective, but they're serving you and your vision. That's their job. That's what you're bringing them on for. That's why they get paid what they get paid, is to serve the vision, to make it happen, to make it real. They can't guarantee it, but if we can't start with that as the foundation, it doesn't matter what designations they have. It doesn't matter what certifications they have. It doesn't matter what college they went to. It doesn't matter. I've burned through some investment folks in my days. But when I find a team, I stay with them for a while, unless they do something that erodes the trust, impacts the belief, or changes the way they relate. Now, once you find someone that has those three characteristics, then the next piece is that you want to make sure that they are proactive. You don't want them making the call and say, we should have got out of this thing 6 months ago. You want them. So my team is regularly evaluating every investment in my portfolio, and I got a few. Every month, they're looking at it. Do we need to change anything? Do we need to do anything? Is there anything that's changed that we need to talk about? They're doing it. So I want them to be proactive. And then the other part is I want them to be available. So like I said, send a text, make a call, send an email, get on the phone, get on a Zoom, whatever it is. I have access to my team during business hours. If it was an emergency, I can get through to them after business hours too. But I have access to them. It's not, oh, we only meet once a year. Oh, we meet as many times as necessary to do the job that we need to do. Okay? So I can't necessarily recommend someone. I have my team. I have my daughter-in-law that does this stuff, and that type of thing. But I have criteria that we look at, questions that we ask. Some advisors go, this is like an interrogation. Some of my one-on-one clients, I literally will get on the call with them as they're evaluating the people as one of their consultants, and I'll conduct the interview. I mean, I do that with a lot of my one-on-one clients that I have a small group of one-on-one clients or my high-level clients that I do that with. And I'm going to be direct. I'm going to be, they're going to need to, here's the thing. Realize this, they need to earn the right to work with you, not the other way around. They need to earn the right to work with you. Yeah. So, Chris and Dale, so good to see you here. Yeah, there are good advisors that will work with less than $1 million, $1 million portfolios. And a lot of them will do that. What you want to look for, the other cautionary thing to be aware of is some advisors are what we call captive advisors. what I call captive advisors. In other words, they can only offer what their mothership says to offer, and their hands are tied. I don't want that. So I work with fiduciaries that have a broad range of investments, because there's two standards. This is a great conversation. I'm glad we're going here. There are two standards of determination of investments. There is the suitability standard, where they're sitting back and saying, this is a suitable investment for you. Okay? Which means that it's all right. It's a good investment, and it works for your circumstances. But suitability doesn't necessarily equate to the best investment for me. So advisors, most advisors, as long as they're offering an investment that's suitable, they're cool. I don't want suitable investments. I want the best for me. I want a bespoke plan for me. Don't give me something that's suitable. Give me the best for me. And that's the thing that I think we all need to ask for. Most of the time, you're going to deal with a fiduciary, fee-only fiduciary type of person. If you get someone that's working at Wells Fargo Wealth, well, they're gonna offer some investments, but they're not going to have the broad spectrum. They will find suitable investments, but is it the best for you? Or is it is it only the best they can offer? So be aware of that. Be careful of that. All right, Sin, how about under $100,000? Here's my suggestion. When you're starting out, you don't have critical mass in your portfolio, what I would suggest, rather than getting all complicated, is start out with a broad-based ETF or index fund. It has shown, statistics have shown that most managers cannot beat the market in the long term. They might beat it for a year or 2 years or something like that. So point being is this, is at the very beginning, you probably don't need the sophistication and the fees associated with having an advisor on board, but you can start by saying, look, I'm going to create a 3-fund portfolio. I'm going to use a broad-based S&P 500 index fund, ETF, low fees. So we're putting as much in your pocket as possible. On average, the market goes up 8 out of 10 years. On average, the market goes up somewhere between 8 and 11%. We may be in some volatile times and some down times right now, but if we look at the long term, it goes up. So if we invest in the market, we're going to get the longer term returns, but we have to do it with a long term view. The reason I'm saying to use an ETF or index fund is because the diversification is done for you. It's a bucket. It's a basket. If I do an S&P 500 index fund that's low fees, it's as if I'm investing in 500 companies. You're not investing in a single stock where you have much more risk. So I would look at, as you start out, instead of putting fees into an advisor at first, get the understanding of the investing. It's some of the things that we teach and the criteria, but follow, even on the show, I've talked about how to pick the right investment index funds. I have episodes that have gone through that. How do you evaluate risk? All of those things. And get yourself into an ETF or index funds to start. In fact, I'm in index funds and ETFs right now. A lot of them, because the diversification is done for me. We're not cherry picking. And then I have a section of the portfolio that I'm cherry picking and picking stocks and different companies and doing that. But it's not the vast majority of my portfolio. The other way to do it, and I don't know your age, and I know that it's impolite to ask, so I won't ask, is to get a specific kind of index or ETF, and that is what we call a target date fund. Now, the target date fund is based upon the target date where you might need the money. So if we say that, hey, I'm not going to need this. This is my long-term money. It's 30 year, so, all right. So since at 60, I probably, I would look at, so you have a little different situation. So here's the reason why. So I would probably look at a target date fund. You probably need the money within 10 years. So you would look at it and say, what year are we in? 2022. So you probably look at a 2030 fund or something. And the reason for it is they'll adjust the portfolio risk to reduce it as you get closer to needing the money so you don't experience the volatility. Now, given your current age, then the other thing is you actually might want to talk to a planner, but not necessarily for the investments alone, but to take into consideration, and I'm assuming, I don't know if you're US based, but there's a lot of things that you need to consider as you start to move into this other chapter of your life. Medical, okay, and medical and Medicare planning, Social Security and Social Security planning, and if you have pensions or if this is all you have, and so those are the things that I think the planner actually can help with. Do we need to consider long-term care insurance and those kinds of elements? Do I have children? Do I not have children? Do I have grandchildren? Do I have debt? There's a greater magnitude of things to consider right now because there's going to be some decisions that need to be made and I'm with you. I just turned 61. So there's decisions that need to be made moving forward, that need to be considered. So like I said, so they may not be doing as much on the investing side as much as them planning on the other elements of your life as you move forward, going through that. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps. These are great questions. I love this. Let me know if there's other questions or if someone wants to come on live and ask the question. I'll bring you on live. Let's have a conversation. I get to see your smiling face. I do have a couple more minutes left, and I've got a couple more questions that came in from on the hotline. So let me jump to that. We'll see if anyone else has any questions. But so question said, I don't have a 401k at work. First off, shame on them. Okay. I max out my Roth IRA. Great. So what's next? Okay. So first things first, I don't know why they don't have a 401k at work. It's not complex and it's not costly these days unless it's, a big plan to do that. It's much easier. So I would talk to HR, talk to the owner, have a conversation saying, what's the possibility of getting it? Now, they can create a matching 401k or they don't have to match, but at least you would have access to a 401k. Hopefully they would match to make that happen. But you're maxing out your Roth, and the max for the Roth currently is either 6,000 or 7,000, depending on age. If you're over 50, you get 7,000. What you can do is you can contribute, as long as you have enough earned income, you can contribute to the Roth. So you're maxing that out. You can still contribute to a traditional IRA too. So you could do 6,000 in a Roth, 6,000 in a traditional IRA. And then the rest of the money that's being contributed would need to go into a brokerage account. Okay. But if you're maxing out the Roth, why not max out the traditional at the same time? So at least you'll have 12,000 or 14,000 if you're over 50 going in, one into a tax-free account and one into a tax-deferred account, and the rest will go into the taxable account, the brokerage account. Those are the only avenues you have unless we can get the employer to start a 401k. Now, if you start a side gig, if you have a side hustle, if you start a business that's creating profit and everything, you can actually put the a 401k into that and participate in your own 401k. So, Chris Sandale, is it worth it to start an IRA at 54 or just continue contributing to our 401k? Well, so Chris, Would you be open to coming on live with me? Let me know. I know usually you say yes, so. Hey there.
Hey, hey, hey.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Um, all right. So here's my question for you. Are you maxing out your 401k right now?
Yes,
All right. Uh,
absolutely.
all right. So you're maxing on the 401k. Um,
It's my
then
husband's 401k. I have to just clarify that. He
okay.
has a traditional job working at NASA and all that good stuff. So that's where we combine. So I don't have my own 401k because I don't have a traditional job.
Okay. So what you could do is you then have access to putting a traditional IRA in place or a Roth IRA in place.
Hmm.
And max that out at $7,000 a year.
Right.
And does it make sense? Well, you're you're 54. You have at least a decade before you're probably going to touch the money. You
Maybe
know?
less because I'm ready to just start traveling.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's the thing. So you can't touch it till if you put it in, we can't touch it till 59 and a half. So you got at least 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
Um, And if we can get growth on the money in a Roth, you got to leave it in for 5 years.
Right.
Okay. So if you get growth on the money in a Roth, when you take it out, that all comes out tax free. So you won't get a tax benefit going in, but we can at least get tax free growth for the period of time that we don't, that we leave the money in. And depending on your tax situation and your lifestyle situation, we might draw money from other places for a period of time to allow the Roth to grow even faster before we take it out. It's those it's the so you have diversification, allocation, and location on your assets. So diversification is what assets you put in. Allocation is the asset classes that you hold, but location is what accounts it's in. So tax deferred is your regular IRA or your 401k. Tax free is your Roth, and taxable is your brokerage account. And you want all three because, for instance, say you do want to retire early, there's this bridge where you can't get access to the retirement money because you're not of age yet. So there needs to be something in a location that we can get access to it without penalty.
Right.
And so to me, it would still make sense to do it, um, and 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 fund it as much as much if you have the cash flow to fund it as much as we can, so we get the tax free growth
Right.
moving forward.
Okay.
And then when we take it out after 59 and a half, it's completely tax free.
Okay. Well, no, it wouldn't be before that anyway. But my
Yeah,
husband's 3 years younger than me, and so I'm like he's still going to be working for a while. But I'm like, man, I'm ready to go have some fun.
yeah, I get it.
We
I
got a
get
little
it.
bit
I mean,
longer to go. We got a little bit
we
longer to go.
we were walking around Portugal going, man, should we just do this the rest of our life? And
Right.
and but then we missed our dog, our Budo.
Exactly. You got to miss Budo and
Oh my God.
Emily and baby
And
number
he's just
two.
and Budo's just got used to going in the water. So now every morning I got to shower him off. So
He's not just staying on the sand anymore.
he's not staying on. No, now he goes in the water and then he rolls in the sand. I'm going, oh, and you got all this fur and I got all the sand. So like, yeah, he's getting groomed on Friday.
Well, see, that's part of it. My brother has a house in Portugal, and he's like, "Why don't you all go over and stay for a month? It's free." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "It's this job thing, my husband has a
Yep.
job, and so anyway, those are the exact sort of situations. Wouldn't that be nice?" So
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome. Well,
Good.
okay, I'm going to think about that because we've been contributing to his 401k for forever since he's had a job in his 20s,
Good.
and
So he's
and
getting the
so
full max and all that.
oh
Does he
yeah.
have a Roth option at the 401k?
I don't know. He probably does because he has a very generous, employer. Um, but I don't know. He's always just been told put it all in the 401k and don't worry about it.
So here's the thing. If he has a Roth option, it's the same investments. He can do the same things, but what'll happen is he could contribute his portion into a portion of his into the Roth side of the plan. He won't get a tax deduction for it. He won't get a deferral on it. But then, and the match will always be taxable, but then he would then have Roth money also that when he draws out would be tax-free also.
Okay. Okay. So that's something we need to look at. We need to look at that then.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus everything in the 401k. I'm like, well, I'm not a financial person, but I'm like, seems like that's a lot of eggs in one basket. And if you get the wrong timing, 2008 is a great example, you know, and that's when you're trying to divvy out. It's like not a good thing.
Yeah. And you have it all in a taxable bucket. I mean, truth be told, I had nothing in a Roth.
Okay.
And the only reason for it is they were so new, and I had so much funding through my defined benefit plan that it was too late. And with a 5-year hold, I didn't want to do it. So we're doing the Roth with my wife.
Okay.
And so we have that money that's all Roth, and the rest of it is all in the taxable account. So trying to get tax diversification will help you.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna look into that because I know I could do one because I'm self-employed, but I'm like, it would, you know, it'd be the 5 years for me, but we've been putting all the money into his 401k versus anything separate for me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's just more money and it's gonna.
Yep. And you're getting the match. But if there's a 401 arm to that 401k, he could take it. Let's say he's putting the full max of 20,500 away. He could take 5,000 of it and put it into the Roth side, and then the 15,000 goes into the regular 401k side. So he gets a $15,000 deduction, but 5,000 of it will be completely tax-free.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's nice.
You got it.
Always.
Always. Other questions? Anyone else have questions coming out? We'll make sure that we get them answered. I'm going to answer one more question from the hotline, and let's see what we can make happen with this. This is Mel. It says, Mel, you talk a lot about net worth. Why is it important, and what do you need to include in it? This is such a great question. So here's the thing. Net worth is the financial machine that will support you down the road. It's what we call the money machine. It's a portfolio of assets, real estate, stocks, bonds, alternative investments, things like that, that can produce cash flow and support you and your lifestyle down the road. So now some people will calculate net worth taking all their assets. And the general way net worth is calculated is assets minus, so it's basically what you own minus what you owe. Okay, let's make it an easy one. You have a house and you have a mortgage. The house is the asset, the mortgage is the liability. It's the net. That's net worth. Okay, but so what do we include? I will calculate total net worth, which is all my assets, things that are sellable and have value, and all my debt, mortgages, credit card bills, those kinds of things. And I will take the assets minus the debt, and that gives me my net worth. Conceivably, that gives you what you have to live on if you paid all your debts off. Here's the adjustment that I want you to make. Because they said, you know, what do we include in it? I want you to only include in your net worth calculation those assets that create cash flow for you down the road. In other words, they can support a lifestyle by either operating, using them, or selling them. Now, I don't like selling assets to create cash flow because then the asset's gone and you can only get the cash flow once. But if I create a machine like rents or dividends or, you know, or assets that pay things on a regular basis, then that cash flow becomes something that we can get over and over again. Now, what that means is this. I live in a beautiful home right on the beach in Laguna Beach, California. It's on my total net worth statement, but it is not on my future net worth statement, what I call my investable net worth statement, because this house, we don't intend to sell it. So therefore, it's not bringing cash in. And so, in fact, it's taking cash out because we got to pay the bills, the property taxes, and all that stuff. So when I look at my net worth, I look at, for the purposes of my lifestyle, funding a lifestyle, I look at the investable assets only. So my stocks, my bonds, my real estates, ETFs, index funds, all of those things that are producing cash flow go into the calculation. Now, it doesn't mean that the house has no value. It just doesn't create cash flow for me to live off of in the future. Okay, so hopefully that answers that. Is that I want you to focus in on the assets that can create cash flow for you to live on in the future, because those are the things that are going to support the lifestyle that you want. In fact, those might have to pay for the house that you're in, like mine would. So you got to look at it from that perspective. So I hope that helps. I hope you're doing well. Let me know if there's any other questions that come up, and we'll get them answered. Remember this, a couple things before I sign off. One, if you have questions, I want you to go to askmelnow.com. Leave me your questions, get them on the hotline. I'll bring them on. We'll get them on the next Money Mentoring over coffee with me. And two, starting next week, September 15th, starting next week, I am doing a special training called the Affluent Entrepreneur Experience. It is a deep dive into the process of being an affluent entrepreneur. Now, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, it is the money process, priorities, and principles that you need to build wealth. So, entrepreneur or not, I want you there. We want to have some real conversations. I want to give you some frameworks, some tools. I want to help you calculate the numbers. I want to help you understand the process to financial freedom. We're going to do 3 trainings and probably a few more that I'm going to add in that are deep dive. It's totally free. Go to affluencelive.com. Join me. Let's go deep. Let's get it dialed in. This is no media hype. This is straight talk. This is what's worked for me, my clients, my family for decades. And I think it's time that we all look at it and say, look, financial freedom is my birthright. I'm going to go claim it. It's something to be proud of, because it is through that financial freedom you get to experience the richer lifestyle, a deeper impact, and complete freedom. It's through that lifestyle that you get a chance to get behind the missions and the movements and the contribution, the generosity you want to have. It's through that lifestyle that you give the gift to your heirs, to your children, to your grandchildren, and to the people you care about. And that is what I believe that I'm drawn to do in this new season of my life. And so if I can help you along this way, man, I would feel blessed. So in that process, man, just reach out to me. Let me know your questions. Let's keep having conversations. Let's move you along. Let's not get caught up in the zeitgeist and the media hype and all of the crazy negativity and pessimism that is out there. Remember, the recession doesn't have to be your recession. The economy doesn't have to be your economy. The bear market doesn't have to be your bear market. We'll create it our way, and we'll do it together. All right? Till I see you in another episode, on a show, or on the road, always, always strive to live a life that outlives you. Cheers, and thank you for being. It's good to be back.